Hi everyone, comic book reviewer here. This time reviewing on Superman issue 310. Now, as you know, this issue is meant to feature Roger Corbin, who was the second Metallo, and during the Bronze Age was meant to be the sort of new big shot Metallo before Crisis on Infinite Earths that kind of made John Corbin the sort of permanent Metallo. And yeah, I know the point of the Bronze Age was meant to sort of spruce up Superman and some of the other DC characters, doing their stories a bit more darker, edgier, and trying to kind of fix things with better potential. And yeah, the point of Roger Corbin is obviously meant to be the brother of John Corbin, who was back in the Silver Age, the original Metallo. And let's get on with the story. It starts off with Superman taking down Skull agents at Star Labs. We see how he says agents of that crime organization called Skull again, and still using those razor rifles. When are you boys going to learn? Those pop guns are useless against me. I'm invulnerable, remember? And we kind of see how, he manages to wrap two of them up. And we kind of see how, Superman manages to take down one of the agents. And we see how Superman sees that Michael Albert's trying to warn him. And we see how, because of Superman's clumsiness, we kind of see how one of the Skull agents gets buried in rubble. And we see how Superman calls out about putting one of their men in danger and quickly wraps them up. And we see how Superman talks with Michael Alberts and that, and even Michael pointing out about why the Skull agents were here and how they knew his location. And for those who don't know, Michael Alberts is supposed to be Atomic Skull, which will eventually happen in the Bronze Age. And we kind of see how Superman figured out that, what was going on, and tries to find out more answers. And we see how, Michael Albert is supposed to be one of the Skull agents. And we see how Superman decides to fly back to the Galaxy building to kind of meet with the team in that. And we see how Steve Lombard points out that he's doing a donation run to give Lois a goodbye gift. And turns out Lois is planning to kind of leave Metropolis and live somewhere else. And we see how Lombard wants to do his own story and basically borrows a special camcorder and mainly leaves. And of course, tries to get more info on the Skull agents. And we see how, after doing some snooping, he gets basically stunned down. And we see how Morgan Edge learns that Steve Lombard took one of his equipment and found out basically where he might be. And we see how, in Clark's apartment, him and Lois are talking. And we see how, basically Lois pointing out that she just kind of wants to kind of leave Metropolis and feels like her and Clark's relationship can't work, and feels like she's made Clark more of a consolation prize and feels bad about it. We see how Clark gets word from Morgan Edge about Steve Lombard, and of course, since Clark was the last person to have talked with Lombard, we see how Morgan Edge needs answers, and they find out he's in a sort of weird football stadium. So we kind of see how, Superman gets into action with basically leaving the phone. And of course, we see how, Clark uses his X-ray vision to keep Lois in the bathroom to prevent her from basically seeing that he's Superman. And we see how Clark journeys around the football fields and finds out one that might have Lombard, which he does. And we see one of them saying, "Here he comes! I'll just have a low press over the... Huh? Who are you? You don't know me, Superman, but if it's any help, the name is Corbin. Roger Corbin. The name should be familiar to you. Perhaps you remember my brother John?" And of course, we kind of see how, Clark manages to put the pieces together and realizes that, John Corbin was the original Metallo. And we see how, Roger's now sort of taken up the mantle now and blames him for his brother's death and badly beats him. And we kind of see him saying, and we kind of see how, Clark points out about all the other kryptonite on Earth that was turned into iron. And we see how Roger points out that this is a special kind of kryptonite that Skull made for him. And we see how, yeah, Clark has to use every bit of his advantages to keep the kryptonite rays away from him. And we see how Superman slowly realizes that from any energy blast, he has to kind of recharge in that. So manages to try and find a way to stop him. And we see how, yeah, decides to use a special Skull scooter, and it turns out the Skull agents plan the event out to upgrade Roger Corbin into Metallo, and point out using Steve Lombard as bait. So of course, we kind of see how Superman realizes that, yeah, he's pretty much now found out a winning advantage, and decides to use a broken wooden piece against the Skull ship, and manages to take down Roger Corbin, and tries to capture the Skull agents. And of course, decides to leave Steve Lombard behind to teach him a lesson, and have a few talks with the police. And after this, we see how, yeah, Clark now has to go back to getting Lois out of the bathroom, who after 6 hours is justifiably annoyed, much to Superman's dismay. And yeah, it's going to have Roger Corbin returning, probably looking for round 2. And yeah, this is the story. So I think the story's not too bad. Again, I get at the point of the Bronze Age was meant to do more with Superman's rogue gallery, like upgrading Lex Luthor and Brainiac, having Metallo be Roger Corbin, and also trying to do more with Superman's rogues gallery than what the Silver Age did. And I think, yeah, the point of the Bronze Age was meant to fix up some of the DC villains as well as the heroes, and the point of the Modern Age was meant to sort of put things a little back on the status quo. But I think the story still deserves a thumbs up. Still good, and still alright. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.